This model kit review is of the very large B-29 Superfortress, and it is 1/48 scale, and it's by Monogram. This is an older kit, and it is absolutely enormous. We'll have to show you the three different options that you could paint this on. I'm going to make the Enola Gay. That's the most classic B-29. It shows you the inside here with all the details. There's a fair amount that you won't see after you finish it, which doesn't entirely make sense, but it's fine. Here's the length and number of parts, 243. And let's see if we can show you this here. Maybe not. Here's some pictures of the finished model. So as you can see, it's a lot of detail here, and I'm going to open this up and see what's inside. This absolutely enormous model. So these large models, they typically give you these boxes that you have to fold up here to be able to get pieces out. So let's have a look and see what we have. This sprue here, we have these very large wheels. And a smaller nose wheel. We have parts for the inside. We have bomb clusters. This looks like our atomic bomb. Maybe two different options there. The Fat Boy was one of them, and some parts for sighting. We also have some pilots, I guess, and some ground crew, which there's some nice details. We've got a little mechanic here. There is unfortunately a fair amount of mold lines here. Let's have a look at the next one. Looks like we have two of the same. This is our tail stabilizer. It's actually very nicely molded. You can see a lot of detail there. Unfortunately, these are raised panel lines. And some exhaust. Enormous propellers. Top of the gun turret. This looks like this is part of the inside. We have our radial engines and our cowls, landing gear, traditional bombs, and possibly this looks like something that's going to be taking the bombs around. We do have some flashing and mold lines. It looks like, as I said, we have two of the same. Yeah. Over here we have our canopy glass, which is actually very nicely molded with details there. This is going to be an absolutely enormous model. It was an enormous plane. Let's have a look here. This sprue is enormous. Everything about this plane and this model is enormous. Look at these wings here. Absolutely enormous. All raised panel lines except for this gap between the aileron. Otherwise fairly nicely molded, actually. Here's one of the formers for inside for the fuselage. This is a brace for our wing and some additional landing gear parts. So this is all very nicely molded. And here you can see the other wing. Again, absolutely enormous. And some of the details for inside the formers. Another one for the wing here. Over here we have our 4 propellers. It's interesting because we were propellers on the other one. So I guess we'll have some options then for the propellers. And looking at this is our fuselage. Absolutely enormous. I can barely fit this thing on the screen here in the camera view. And lots and lots of details. Here's the front of the cockpit. Other parts to put together on the inside. Let's flip it over and see on the inside. We've got a fair amount of detail there inside the cockpit, as well as the bomb bay area. I mean, this is a very nicely made model with a tremendous amount of detail. And here's how to make a diorama. They give you instructions on what to add. Some of those things aren't here, like the Jeep. You need to purchase those. But a tremendous amount of detail here. It's going to be a very large diorama. And I built some of the details there. Well, let's have a look at our instructions and decals. First of all, here are our decals. Enormous, just like the plane, but very nicely printed. A lot of detail here. Let's have a look at our instructions. So these are the colors needed, and then the parts listing with all their names. Not so useful. And then there's the World War II version or the atomic version, and you can make either option. The atomic version did not have guns on it, so those are closed. We start to build up the cockpit here. Work on the cockpit and inner parts some more with the fuselage formers. A lot of detail there, as you can see. And then putting together the insides of the fuselage. And then the bomb bay, depending on which one you want to make. So this is for the, let's see here. A is the World War II version, so the regular bombs are going in there. And putting together a crew area that goes behind, which unfortunately there'll be parts that you won't see. Not sure the value of details when it gets closed up. And then the tail area getting put together, the wing formers going on, and then the fuselage being put together. So this is to build the atomic version. You build the inside different, and there are 2 options. There's the Enola Gay version or the Boxcar version with the 2 different bombs. And let's have a look over here. So putting together the wheel wells inside the wings is slightly different. And here's our landing gear. And putting those in with the wheel covers. And then our bomb bay. And our canopy goes on there. With the cockpit glass, stabilizers, tail gunners, depending if you're building atomic or World War II version. And then the World War II version only has the gun turrets, otherwise it's closed. And then our propellers go on there, and different types of propellers depending on, I guess that's why we have the 4 different propellers for the one or the other. And then our ground screw. And then here is our decal guide for the Enola Gay. It had a giant R on it. And a painting guide. Here's our Boxcar version. Also a nuclear version. And then here is our World War II version. So this is definitely a very large model. It's got a tremendous amount of detail, and it'll be great to build.